Megatron's communications officer, Soundwave, is probably the most loyal Decepticon you can ever come across. He probably gets the most respect for not asking too many questions and doing his work rather than kiss up to him. He's also the first to use the cassette feature. If you don't know what that is, basically it's like VHS is just for music, and if you don't know what that is, man, you're young. Deploying other smaller minions for certain missions or various attacks. Soundwave is cunning, quiet, and expert at his craft, and is one of the most infamous Decepticons who is undoubtedly a favorite, even for casual fans. Special thanks to 01 Transfan and MaxRossLinden for sending this. What's cool about these Netflix Voyagers is they include a few buddies to interact with. In the case of Soundwave, of course he come with a rework of his first cassettes just with some changes. Is it okay to say this qualifies as an upgrade? I mean, when they released these in Siege, they weren't worried about proper cassette details, but Ravage exceeds with new applications including the Japan text, circles, and nod to the original. It feels more like a cassette. LASERBEAK just gets some blue and yellow. Good job. Sure, the colors are okay, highlighting the details, and I can't blame them for not overhauling this, since there's sculpted greebling. But compared to Ravage, it seemed like he knew he'd be liked anyways, and it got to his head, so he just became lazy. They obviously fit inside the chest, but only one at a time, so Sound Blaster still has the upper hand. In addition, there's a peg to flip out, so you can plug it to various portholes as some sort of shield, plug it to the hand, and it's a cafeteria tray. Transformation for LASERBEAK might be simple, but it's smooth and relaxing. Ravage, on the other hand, feels like a mess, and certain things have to be set in order. The result of the figure isn't pleasant either. I think Soundwave overfeeds his pet and blames it on love. It's not healthy. LASERBEAK, however, feels so appropriate, but it's hard to mess it up. Oh yeah, Titans Returns. Anyways, the only thing I feel the need to criticize is no paint on the red section because everything else is pretty stunning. There's blast ports on the back, the feet are made to tab onto Soundwave's arm, and the head has been properly remolded for the bird-like style similar in the cartoon. Ravage has pretty boxy thighs. I sorta can't blame them. He's probably so small that if they thin this out, it could snap or warp, but he looks like the next contestant on The Biggest Loser. Head changes for some reason, but that's fine, even though he looks like an aggressive mascot for a skateboard. The silver works, I do like the weapons on the hips, and the legs have some movement, it's just not my favorite cassette. Keep an eye for the pins, they seem to rust easily. With that, if you're gonna include minions with Soundwave, these are the ones, though I hate not owning Rapat and Rumble. The show stealer, of course, has got to be the Soundwave, and I can completely understand why this was the favorite in the wave. For so long, collectors had to struggle with fan-made cassette player modes. Well, Hasbro said no more, for you shall receive a retail release Soundwave that's an actual cassette player. I'm gonna get the issues out of the way. Weapon storage feels lame, especially with the batteries. No matter how you put it, they're gonna be uneven just how they're designed. There's the gray panels that break up the silver at the bottom, and why is this yellow? Gold paint is right there. There's no dials on the side, but other than that, this is incredible. I'm sure some kid thinks I'm a fool because this is a box, but it's more than that. This is a nostalgic piece resembling something of simpler times, not just from Transformers, but a kid in general. I wasn't an 80s kid, but I still knew what this was. Sure, the scale is questionable. I mean, it's obviously not in scale with the other Transformers figures or real people, but Fortress Maximus picking this up? Yeah, that works. Still has the button on top to open the front, along with the button details, the R and L molded in. And check out how they use the pin as the record button. That's new level brilliant. Awesome, now we have G1 forms of Starscream, Soundwave, and with this gun, I guess it's Megatron? I mean, that's what everyone tells me. It's still lame. Who cares? Give it to Wheeljack or whatever. It's not a car, it's not a jet, it's not a space octopus, it's not an upgrade from Megatron. It is a proper cassette player. It is what made Soundwave himself. And if you mention Titans Returns, I think that's a phone charger. How you doing? Like Evanescence? Yep, I love this thing. It's coming off of one of my favorite Soundwave molds, and it properly changes it to respect the classic mode. I understand why they had to change it for other continuities, but this was certainly wanted, and it's awesome. Robot mode. Now Now this is a proper Soundwave figure. I don't know if it's because it's fueled by a retro alt mode, or there's no other alt mode kibble aside from leftovers, or it's just simple, but I think this is the best version of the character we've ever got. The shape of mostly everything is correct. Certainly the chest looks wide, but it's an empty cavity to house any minion. It could also be that his head and shoulders look small, but I don't mind aside from the choice of yellow. Why? You almost had it right. This does carry over some of the parts from the Siege mold with the upper legs and lower arms. Wait, what happened to the red trim? They even took out the stoplights in the knees. It looks much more flat and clean, which is helped by the lack of overused texturing and Siege battle marks. I'll tell you one thing that's not carried over from Siege is the yellow eyes. That's a good choice. If you prefer the yellow, you could probably swap the heads. Other than that, I love his menacing, emotionless look, shaped similar to the Decepticon logo. That's how you know he's loyal entirely. Surprisingly though, there's less sculpted lines than the Siege, which is a weird choice. Did someone say, articulation? Ball jointed head, shoulders forward and back, out and in, rotation below, double elbow, waist rotation, hips out and in, forward and back, rotation below, knee bend, and foot tilt. Posability is pretty good, although the big chest is an immovable brick. Shoulders are strange though. There's this weird point where they lock into place. It's tough to get out, and I sometimes feel it'll snap. There's even stress marks. What was wrong with the other two that had to be remade? Let's take a look at the accessories. They're the exact same molds as the original, but no red? Why? Was that problematic? Hasbro, we need to talk. Anyways, they're the classic batteries turned into weapons. One's a shoulder Gatling gun that plugs in pretty well, but makes sure the peg doesn't slip out of the gun. The other is a blaster that extends and can be used as a handheld weapon. As mentioned, he comes with this gray thing that everyone tells me is based on Megatron's gun form. Yeah, I heard. I read comments. You're there. Plugs into the hand, but meh, there's charm to the batteries, why ruin that trend? You can combine them though if you want. Anyone want a sound hammer? There's various blast ports around the toy and 5mm portholes on the feet, side the legs, hands, 2 on each arm, and 3 on the back. Now if only they kept those weird cool skids under the arm. Wait, you could still do the underarm gun thing? Cool! But why though? Look, I'll still keep the Siege version. I like that it was trying to do something different, and now I can respect the blocky alt form if they knew they had to rework it. Plus, while this can do the lamppost mode, it seems more suited for the Siege toy. Wait, you can make a street with these. If you couldn't tell, I love this figure. It is the perfect form of a Generation 1 inspired Soundwave with the latest articulation. Not to mention, all the ports and ability to add minions are amazing additions to it. If you're able to find it for yourself, try not to skip him. This is probably going to be the centerpiece for your generation's Decepticons. Even if you have the original, I'd say you'll find a place to add it in. Thanks to 01 Transfan and MaxRossLinden for sending this. Do you think he likes Nickelback or not?